This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I make that just 9:30, so let's get started. This session is being recorded and will appear on our YouTube channel later on today. And can you believe that this is virtually 12 months since we did our first webinar. Our first webinar was actually dated the 27th of March 2020, and we're now virtually a year on, and since then I think this is number 27 that we've done over the period. So if you've joined us for all of them, thank you for your patience, and if this is your first time on one of our webinars, well, glad to have you along. This will take about 30 minutes. As I say, the session is being recorded and will appear on our YouTube channel later on today. If you've missed any of the previous webinars, go along to our YouTube channel, search for Harts Limited on YouTube, and you'll find copies of all the previous webinars and slides all up there, so you can feel free at your leisure to browse through anything that you might have missed previously. We do have a chat box, and you'll see a speech bubble in the top right hand corner of your screen. Please feel free to stick in any questions you may have on anything that we're talking about today. Or if you want to unmute yourself, I want to try and make these sessions as interactive as possible. Unmute yourself, shout out a question, and we'll see if we can answer it. And if I can't, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people on this call who'll be able to jump in and help out as well. Before we start, we're going to have a quick government support update as well, because there's one or two things happening. But before we start, we have to read out our disclaimer. Basically, the following presentation is produced for general guidance only, and professional advice should always be sought before any transactions undertaken. Individual circumstances can vary, and therefore no responsibility can be accepted by Harts Limited or any of their affiliates for any action taken or any decision made to refrain from action by attendees of this presentation. Okay, firstly, we're going to have a quick support update. The bounce back loans and the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme. The bounce back loan scheme finishes the 31st of March. So if you've not made your application yet, you only have a few days left to be able to do it. Basically, this is pretty much free money. You can apply for up to £50,000 or 25% of your turnover, whichever is the maximum. And the repayment terms have been extended to 10 years. You can have an interest-free period now of up to 18 months. There are no personal guarantees given, and the interest rate is 2.5%. It sounds too good to be true, but it is available still just until the 31st of March. After that, it is disappearing. We do have the Sybil's loan, and that again finishes on the 31st of March. However, from the 6th of April, we have the new recovery loan scheme, which becomes available. And again, this ensures that businesses of any size can continue to access loans and other kinds of finance for up to £10 million per business. The government guarantees 80% of the finance to the lender to ensure they continue to have the confidence to lend to businesses. Now, you can borrow £25,000 on term loans and overdrafts between £25,000 and £10 million per business. You can also do invoice finance and asset finance, which is available between £1,000 and £10 million. The terms are up to 6 years for term loans and assets finance, and for overdraft and invoice finance facilities, it's up to 3 years, and there's no personal guarantees on the facilities up to £250,000, and a borrower's principal private residence cannot be taken as security. So to check if you're available, if you're eligible rather, business has got to be trading into the UK, but you need to show that your business is viable, or would be viable if it were not for the pandemic. You've got to show that your business has been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic and is not in collective insolvency proceedings. And basically, those are the main details. That's all we have at the moment on the recovery loan scheme, and more stuff is no doubt going to come out fairly soon. If we've got the self-employed grant deadline, again, usual terms and conditions apply. You have to make the application for it, and the deadlines are approaching fairly soon. And deferred VAT payments. Now, if you've deferred one of your VAT payments from last year, you have until the 31st of March to be able to spread that over 11 months interest-free. If you don't do that by the 31st of March and you don't do it until April, you then only got 10 months. Basically, you have to have repaid what you deferred last year by 31st of January 2022. So again, you need to make that application online. Now, we know that there have been a number of issues because one of the terms and conditions is that you have to make sure that all your VAT returns are up to date. And what's currently we're finding on a number of issues is that the HMRC are saying that if you've got your current VAT return outstanding, even though it might not be due yet, you've got a VAT return outstanding, and their system has been struggling to cope with that scenario. That may mean that if you apply, you may get turned down. Just phone them up, explain the position, and you'll be able to sort it out over the phone. The coronavirus job retention scheme, that's extended, as everybody now knows, to the end of September, with you having to make contributions as well from later on this year. And I've put tax day on the side as well. That tax day is actually today. And it's been called tax day because there's going to be a large number of consultation documents issued by the government to determine how they think the tax system could potentially work going forward. They're going to look at, it will also look at reviews of further taxes as well, how they operate, tax rates, and so on. Now, these are consultation documents. It doesn't mean they're actually going to be enshrined in law at a later date, and they're looking for responses to that. So which is why I've just flagged that up, because that will all come out today, and no doubt there'll be plenty about that in the news as well. Okay, so that's our quick government support update. If you've got any questions on that, stick them in the chat box, or feel free to drop me a line, drop me an email, pick up the phone and have a chat. No problem with that whatsoever. Okay, moving on to strategy and planning, which is why we're meeting this morning. I'd like to ask you first a couple of questions. So if you could just answer the first one with a yes or no in the chat box. Do you think businesses need to have a plan? If you could just answer me a yes or no in the chat box, that will be great. So do you think businesses need a plan? And so far we've got lots of yeses. We've got 17 people on the call, and we've got yeses from so far from everybody who's replied, which is great, fantastic. Please feel free to keep sticking your replies. I've not had any negatives. So basically you all agree that businesses need a plan. Okay. Does your business have a strategic plan for your business, and is it written down? Can you answer yes or no to that question, please? Put your answers in the chat box and be honest about it. And now everyone is answering no. So we've got 3 no's so far. Don't be embarrassed if you're putting another no in there, that's fine. We've got no, not really. And to be basically honest, you're in the vast majority. Most businesses that I come across do not have a plan. Thank you for everyone who's replied, that's great. And it just confirms really what we thought. So you all agree that you need a plan, but none of you have actually got one. So hopefully this will give you an idea of what's involved when you actually get involved in doing a strategic plan. So what is a strategic plan, and how does it actually compare to a business plan? Well, what I'd like to do before we even get there is just to say, well, there is a booklet that we can actually download from our website. It's on strategic planning. If you go to the front page of our website, and you'll see, take a fresh look at your business, you'll be able to stick in your email address, and you'll be able to download a free ebook on the topic today, which accompanies basically what we're talking about today. If you want a hard copy, please drop me an email. I can get it sorted out for you. So what's the difference between a strategic plan and a business plan? I tend to think of it, because I'm a football person, I tend to think of it as a football scenario. If you think about a football team and they have a strategy that they want to win as many games as they can by scoring more goals from corners than anybody else. That is their strategy. They're going to try and win as many corners as they can because they know that they can score more corners than anybody else, and that's how they're going to win their football matches. The actual business plan element of it is to say, well, how are we going to take those corners? what is the strategy, what is the plan that we actually have to take the corners? So are we going to pass it to one person? Are we just going to put a big cross in the box? Who are we aiming for? And so on. So you may have half a dozen different plans as to how you're actually going to take the corner. But the overall strategy is that you're going to score goals from corners. That's how you're going to win your matches. So it may well be that people and some of your competitors will realize that that's what your business plan is, that you're going to try and work out scenarios to score goals from corners. So to keep ahead of your competitors, you will change your plan, you will adapt your plan, you will move with the times, you'll create something new. And as you can see, there's nothing really different from that in business. It's very much a question of saying, we have a strategy, we know what we want to try and achieve overall. Now let's actually have a business plan to actually achieve that. My business plan might adapt, might change because of due to prevailing circumstances, my competitors may change, but overall, this is what we are trying to achieve. So that's basically what a strategic plan is. It's going to be looking at where you are now, looking at where you want to be in, say, 5 years' time, and plan a route of how to get there. So, what is a strategic plan? And why do you need to plan? And what can happen if you don't? So basically, why you need to plan, it gives you what you want both from a business and personal point of view. We're going to cover later on personal objectives and business objectives. It gives you great focus. It will give you some targets that you need to act on. It will give you some action points and give you a blueprint for the future. It makes you accountable because you've got something written down. It's going to be accountable to yourself. It's going to be accountable to your family. It's going to be accountable to your team and your staff. Excuse me. So again, it's very much gives you that accountability because it's written down. You're actually trying to achieve something. In this day and age, when businesses are struggling because of the pandemic, it can be a route for survival, but it can also be a route for growth as well. It will give you more profit, and once you've achieved your targets, you'll be so much more satisfied and give you that sense of achievement. So that's why it's basically so important to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, the sort of stuff that can go wrong is you'll end up having no direction. You'll have no clear leadership, and you can have your where you want to go will take you much longer to actually get there. Your customer expectations may not be met because you're not sure what you're actually trying to achieve yourself. If you can't show leadership, then staff motivation may be low, or they might have low morale for your team. You might be missing out on opportunities. Regulatory issues can cause a pressure on the sort of plans that you've got, and that can create it to change path. You can also get complacent because whilst things are great and business is doing well, you probably think, well, this is great, I don't really need a plan going forward, but that actually leads you into complacency. And there's also the possibility of having a bad strategy. It's all very well thinking, right, I've got a brilliant strategy, this is what I'm going to do, but is it realistic? So if we go back to the football scenario, sorry, but I'm a Man United fan. If we go back to the football strategy, if you have a bad strategy, and it can be that Man United want to be the greatest football team in the world, actually, that's not a great strategy because it's something which is not really achievable. You might want to say, Wes, our strategy is we want to win the league within the next 3 years. That is a strategy. But to actually say we want to be the greatest at this or we want to be the best at that is not a strategy. It can actually be very woolly and actually lead to bad decision making. So making sure you actually have a good strategy is essential. And having strategy gives you the opportunity to work on your business rather than in it. Everyone is working towards the same goal and also gives you great direction. We did a strategy session with a client a number of years ago, and we set the plans out for years 1 to 5. And by the end of year 1, they had achieved so much focus and direction, they'd achieved the targets by the end, the year 5 targets by the end of year 1. That's the sort of approach you can, sort of effect you can actually have by doing a strategy session. So what is at the heart of actually what we're doing, of the strategy? So what is a strategic plan? Well, we spend a lot of time when you actually have a session on your personal and business objectives, and we'll come on to that in a minute. We look at your products that you actually are selling and what potential products you might have. We look at your sales and marketing plan. We look at how you price your business, how you price your products and your business. We look at your management and your teams and your staff and your IT and so on. And would you believe it, but the financial modeling really comes secondary out of it, because we're pulling together all of these different scenarios, pulling together all the various strands of your business, which we then input into a financial model. So the strategy is at the heart of absolutely everything that you do. So basically we're saying, well, you want to consider where you want to be in, say, 5 years' time, and we plan a route of how to get there. And it's not about where do you want to go, it's not about where you have been, it's not about where others might tell you to go to, and not just where you need to go to, but it's where you want to go to. It's all about what you want out of the business. As I said, we look at all your products and services, we look at geographic locations, marketing, pricing, we might do a SWOT analysis for you, we look at potential systemization of your business, we follow up, and so on. So the sort of questions we might ask you on a personal side is, how do you feel on a Sunday evening? Do you really look forward to work on a Monday morning? If not, then why not? Is there something that needs to change? We look at how much you want to earn. How long do you want to carry on working? Have you got an exit plan? How many holidays do you want to have each year? How many weeks in the year do you actually want to work? How do you actually measure your personal success? And what's important to you right now? These are all the sorts of questions that we will ask you on a strategy session, and all form part of your plan. We had a session with a client a few months ago, and it turns out they hadn't taken a holiday in 5 years. So what did we do? We made that as one of their personal objectives and one of their strategic objectives, to actually take a holiday within the next few months. Obviously, COVID has put a bit paid to that, but it's still there as one of their objectives. And that can just be a personal thing which they have to do, but it's all part of the strategy process. We also look at your business objectives. So how big do you want the business to be? How many staff do you want, and how many staff do you have? How do you consider maybe your standing in the community? What sort of turnover level would be good for you? How much profit do you want to make? How do you rate your customer service? And what are your key objectives? There's very, very many variables to consider, and we spend quite a considerable amount of time looking at these sorts of objectives, so we can create a list of your personal and business objectives. This is where most of the time is actually spent with you. We're also going to be setting some targets. You've got to have something to aim for. So goal setting is very important. Because if you want to say, right, this is where we want to be in, say, 5 years' time, well, then we need to be there in 4 years. We need to be at this position in 3 years. We need to be here in 2 years. So therefore, over the next 12 months, this is what we actually have to try and achieve. So we'll be setting targets, agreed targets, for the next 12 months or so. We're going to measure your target, measure your progress in relation to these targets as well. And it will give you this extra motivation to go out there and try and achieve this, and potentially will increase your productivity as well. You want to look at your products and services. So what do you actually offer to your customers and to your clients? Do your customers know what you do? It happens very many times to ourselves as accountants. People come to us and say, oh, I didn't realize you did that. Why don't they realize that you do that? So the biggest way to grow your business normally is to mine your existing customer base, and to actually have a look and see, to say, well, they're taking this service, but what about this service? Have you thought about taking this up? It's all about cross-selling and upselling. So, and also let's have a look as well and see if there's an opportunity for any new products or any new services that you might want to offer that's out there. Can you diversify into a different area? I think a lot of businesses have done this over the past 12 months whilst we've been in lockdown, in and out of lockdown over the past 12 months. A lot of businesses have adapted and have changed the way they're working, whether they're working partly from home, partly from the office, whether the sort of products or service that they're offering has changed. So for restaurants have moved to takeaway rather than being sit in. A lot of businesses have moved to delivery rather than people coming on. And online shopping has increased enormously. So a lot of businesses have adapted. Certainly events businesses have moved to online events businesses rather than doing it face to face. And is there an opportunity for you to continue to adapt your business, diversify and change? We will look at the geographic location you operate from. So is it the best location? Where would you like you to operate from? Would you like to open up another hub somewhere else in the country if all of your customers are in a different part of the country? Have you considered expansion into other markets and other sectors as well? For instance, the overseas market. Is there an opportunity now? Has Brexit made it more difficult to start exporting your services? It may well be that you want to come out of doing the overseas market and concentrate more on the domestic side. Again, this is all the sort of considerations you need to bring into place when you actually start to prepare a strategic plan. Marketing is a big one. A lot of businesses don't have a marketing plan. And if you haven't got one, do one, make one. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. These days, with the use of social media, you can do an awful lot for very, very little. So for instance, are you putting on webinars like we've been putting on webinars twice a month for the last 12 months? It's a great way to get in front of your customers, explain the services that you offer, and inform them and keep them up to date as what's been going on. Are you sending out newsletters? Are you being involved? Those newsletters can be online. Are you involved in LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and so on? There's all the whole use of social media. We use YouTube as well. YouTube is actually the second biggest search engine behind Google, would you believe? So if you're not using YouTube, record some videos. You can do it on your phone and upload them to YouTube and create your own YouTube channel. It doesn't take much to do. It all costs you very, very little. So make the best use of digital marketing, social media presence, and so on. And then potentially, are your marketing materials projecting what you want them to project, or are they outdated? Is your website outdated? Do you need to upgrade your website? Again, all of this stuff is very cheap to do these days. Have a look at what resources you might need to invest to grow your business. So do you need to take on a marketing person potentially? Do you want to take on a part-time marketing person? There's plenty of people out there who will be able to sell the services during lockdown. A lot of it can be done online as well. So, and have a look, is your brand on message? Is your brand sufficient to what you're trying to achieve in the market? So marketing is a very big one, and you might well need some outside help with that. We use outside help for our marketing as well. Also, it's done in-house, but we also have a marketing expert who came on board with our social media webinar a few weeks ago. We then have a look at pricing. So part of your strategy is your pricing, considering your pricing structure. And do you have an opportunity for premium pricing? So is what you're doing that nobody else is actually doing? So it gives you the opportunity to price it accordingly. So if you're the only person or one of very few people doing what you're doing, or supply and demand makes it that the demand for that product is enormous, do you have an opportunity to increase your prices? Bear in mind that a 5% increase in your prices is all on the bottom line because your costs don't go up. So it makes a big difference to your bottom line. Potentially, can you bundle up your products and therefore sell more? Or even unbundle your products so you can actually get more for what you actually been selling in the first place. Have a look at that if you're bundling up services, or potentially look at unbundling those products as well. Do some market research. Do you know what your competitors charge? Are you in line with the market? And so on. How do you target your new customers as well? So have you got a database which you're working towards? Do you buy data from certain places so you can target your customers and potentially increase prices that way, or even get more information about the market and so on. When you're selling as well, you'll probably have something that you might make you different. What's your unique selling point? What makes you different from absolutely everybody else? We've talked previously about knowing what your customers know what you actually do. And therefore, you've got an opportunity to cross-sell and upsell. When you go into McDonald's, it's a typical scenario of cross-selling and upselling. You go into McDonald's, you say, right, I'd like a burger and chips, please. And they say, oh, would you go large with that? They've already sold you then a large portion of chips with it. And then turn around and say, oh, can I get you a drink to go with that? And they've cross-sold you a drink. It's much the same with your business as well. What other services then could you offer to your customers and to your clients? Do you have any actually unique selling points which you can sell to them as well? Do you have the opportunity to cross-sell and upsell? Hotels, we're moving on to systemization as well. If your business becomes totally systemized, it means you've got the opportunity to reduce your internal costs. McDonald's is another great example of this. You can go to a McDonald's in John O'Groats and you'll get exactly the same burger as if you went into one in Land's End. I'm assuming there's a McDonald's in Land's End and John O'Groats, I wouldn't know, but assuming there was, then you will get the same thing wherever you went, because the whole thing is systemized. They take children, they teach them how to do it, they take students, teach them how to do it. They have their own systemized plan. Everything has to be done a certain specific way to get the right end result every single time. Hotels, how they clean rooms is very similar as well. They will have a tick list and you will tick off, have you cleaned under the bed, have you cleaned the toilet, have you cleaned the bathroom, have you changed the sheets, and you put a tick list on absolutely everything, and they will know that that has been complied with. There is a system for cleaning the rooms, and the whole thing becomes systemized. Here's an opportunity for you to systemize your business as well. And when it comes down to it, it's very much down to action. You can have how to achieve success is the most important ingredient to success is having some belief. But you've got to know what it looks like, and without commitment and action, there's going to be no success. In most businesses, looking at it, 70% of it is belief, 20% of it is vision, and 10% of it is action. Without that action, nothing actually gets done. So you've got to have an action plan. It's got to be written down as well, so you can become accountable. You then decide who's going to do what, when, and how, and those tasks can be delegated out. So as part of our strategic planning sessions, we come up with a whole load of strategic objectives. There might be some implementation projects which need to be done, but always at the end of it, there are a number of action plans, and we will follow up with you on a regular basis to make sure that things are being done how you want them to do them. You will review your performance against the plan, and you want to share these with your colleagues as well. You might want to share it with your teams. You might want to say, right, this is our strategy for the next 5 years. This is what we're trying to achieve. You can just give them a brief overview to say, this is where we were thinking the business needs to be in 5 years' time, and you share that with your team as well. Why hold back any of this information? I don't know if any of you read the Rules, No Rules book, which has been written about the rise of Netflix. I'm just reading that one at the moment. Fascinating insight on how Netflix doesn't have any rules if you work there. And they share a lot of information with the whole of their team. That's just part of what they do. And it's led to incredible growth, profit, and success for them. So if you get a chance to read that book, Rules, No Rules, all about the rise of Netflix, try and get hold of that book. It's well worth a read. It's a good business book read. As you go along, your plans may change. Your overall strategy might not change, but your plans change. We talked about this right at the very beginning. Have a look at it on a monthly and quarterly basis, and you might need to amend it. You might need to update it. What you want to do might, as a business plan for a new product, might not be achievable, so you can try something different. But overall, you are trying to achieve something. This is what we're all about. So, final slide really is, how can we help you do this? Well, we have a number of clients who have gone through the strategic planning process, and you'll be able to read about it on our website. You'll read about it in the ebook. There's a number of testimonials we've got in there. We'll work with you on how to prepare your strategic plan. The session normally takes between half a day to 3/4 of a day with you, depending on the number of people involved. We would normally ask you and all shareholder directors that are active in the business to come along and to have input into this, because it has to be buy-in by everybody who's running that business. I act as your facilitator to ensure that all actions are followed up as well. And we show you how to maintain and amend and keep up to date your plan. We can develop more time with you developing your strategic plan as well. So it is something that we are doing now on a regular basis with clients. Again, please feel free to download the ebook and find out a little bit more information about that. If you want to book in a session, please feel free to give us a call and we can talk you through the pricing of it and so on. So I said I'd keep you for 30 minutes or so. That's just 30 minutes. Has anybody got any questions that they would like to bring up? So far we have nothing in the chat box apart from someone commenting on my support of Manchester United, which is quite understandable these days. But has anybody else got anything they would like to raise on strategic planning and what is a strategic plan, or how we can help you, or anything else that might be actually involved? Whilst you're waiting for some questions to come through, just to remind you that our next webinar is not going to be on the 6th of April due to the fact that it's the day after Easter and we reckon a number of people might still be off. So the next webinar will be on the 20th of April, details to be confirmed. And we are looking at arranging a number of panel discussions as well. Similar to question time, we're trying to get some leaders in business and other dignitaries as well to get involved. So that's coming as well. So watch this space for those important announcements. We do have a number of videos which we're going to start filming in the next few weeks as well. Those are going to be coming up on our website, and they're going to be short, few-minute videos as well, and you'll wait and see what those are all about. But so far, we've had no questions, which is great. As none of you have actually got a strategic plan written down, maybe you want to give me a call or drop me an email, sglicher at Harts-Ltd, and we've got a session booked in. I've got one question here. I'm a one-man business these days. What can you add? It works for one-man businesses. It works for multiple site businesses. It's all about creating what you actually want and where you want to go with your business. So even a one-person business, we've had a number of husband and wife businesses go through it. Technically, those are effectively one-person businesses, but if we look at one-person businesses, we can look and see where you want to be, what you're trying to achieve. So again, feel free, if you want to chat it through, give me a call on the office number, and I'll happily talk that through with you. Okay, there's no more questions, so thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. This session has been recorded and will appear on our YouTube channel later on today, and along with all the other items on all the other webinars on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to go there, and if you want to go back and have a look at any of the slides, just feel free to get involved. And if you want to get in touch, drop me a line and I'll happily help you. Thank you very much indeed for joining, and have a great day.